Hello and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. In this episode we're looking at Cavalettis and how you can use them as an aid to fitness, improving your dog's stride pattern, and also as a guide to see how if there's any issues with your dog. So what are Cavalettis? Effectively they are poles set just slightly off the ground and in some sort of secure holder. So you've probably seen these you might have seen these from the world of horses, because this is where it comes from. Cavalettis is something horses do to help them get a good trot. Also, they can be used in things like sports. So sports athletes will use something similar to this. In fact, these poles were originally for football, where they have to walk through them at speed quickly without knocking the poles. Again, it's about proprioception, it's about coordination and speed. So when you're looking at your Cavalettis, as I said, you can buy sets off the internet very easily, off Amazon, anything like that. In fact, these came from Amazon. They tend to come with the poles and cones that you can put them in. My cones, actually, after a while, they perished, so that's why I've now got wooden stands for these that I had someone make for me. What we're looking for is nice light plastic poles, so that if the dog does clip them, they fall and don't hurt the dog. I don't mind having them fixed, so you can actually have fixed Cavalettis, where certainly when they used to be in the cones, they could fall over, but they couldn't do this and fall over. They were actually fixed into something. Some people have what they call ladders. They look like a ladder made out of pipework. And that means they are a set distance for all dogs, all different heights and levels of dogs. And in that sense, they can be fine, they can absolutely fine. But potentially, they're not, you can have a situation where these ladders are not suitable for a certain dog. Perhaps the dog is long-bodied, so in actual fact, when they're trying to do these ladders, it's impossible for them, or for some other reason. I mean, this is set up for Swift, and this is lovely for Swift. But with Sparrow, I would have to adjust this, because with Sparrow, she would actually find this too tight. So, you know, it's things to think about. I quite like having the Cavalettis that you can adjust simply by moving them around, because that way I can adjust them to suit the dog, rather than saying, right, you've got to fit into one size box, if you like, with these ladders. That being said, the ladders are very useful too. So I've got 4 Cavaletti poles. You could have 5, 6, you know. We're not talking an infinite number, but certainly you could get up to 8 or 10 if you wanted to. It is just the process of asking the dog to trot through it. So with a smaller number, we're probably going to do more repetitions, whereas with a longer number, you can obviously get more, do a straighter line. So, you know, there's pros and cons, but of course it depends on the space you've got. When I started out, I didn't have this field, so these were just about enough. I had enough room for 4 Cavalettis in a living room or a kitchen. You know, and then you obviously expand and move on. So I might get some more at some point. Looking at the height of the Cavalettis where they're set. Now, you could start with the poles actually right on the ground, as long as they were set in something so they didn't move. By that, I mean, I don't want them just on the floor, so that if the dog did clip it, I mean, they're not going to do it on this because it's grass, but certainly on carpet or something, they could roll, and that could catch under the dog's feet, and that could cause them to not want to do the Cavalettis, and it is slightly dangerous if they did walk on them. So if you're going to have them on the ground, they need to be still fixed into something so they can't move. These are set slightly higher. They are set just below the wrist joint height of my dogs, or around the wrist height, because they are a set height. So they might actually be around that for Swift. The idea being is she's got to pick her leg up, but she hasn't got to go extreme. You can see that I actually have another slot here, so they could actually go higher. I wouldn't actually do this on my little dogs. It would actually be too high. My dogs would really have to lift their feet up, and it wouldn't be productive, because that is not how a dog walks. But if I had a bigger dog, a collie or a Labrador, then that would be something I'd look into, because I might need that to get them to really trot and pick up their feet. So you don't want these going too high so they're over the height. If you imagine your dog's foot there, they have a wrist joint, and then they have their that's their stifle, I think. So, well, elbow anyway. You don't want it going so it's above this elbow, and you really don't want it too high so that it's causing the dog to really have to stride. Because it's not just about the front legs, we've also got to think about the back legs as well. And very often the dogs are fine with the front legs, but when they lift the back legs, they don't lift them up properly, and that's when they catch things. Whatever height you end up doing, you want to start low and work up to it to give the dog confidence so they can figure it out. And it's going to take time because, as I say, a lot of dogs don't know where their rear ends are, and we'll probably get Sparrow out at some point and show you what that can look like. So if we get Swift, I'll show you how we teach these and what it should look like. So with our Cavalettis, this is not a race. We don't want to see how fast they can do, and we can get them up to trotting speed through them to make, to make it more challenging, but we don't want them running through. If they start to run through it, they'll miss things. We are actually looking at controlled movement. So we would start with a treat on a dog's nose, leading them over. Now, you can instantly see the problem with that. The problem is because the dog is busy looking at where the treat is, they're not looking about their feet, and you can see that Swift actually knocked the poles a few times. So very quickly, we want our dog to be not following the treat on the nose, but actually thinking what they're doing. So we want them to be following us, nice, but actually looking at what they're doing. And you can see now she's concentrating. Look at that beautiful stride pattern. She's not knocking anything. Importantly, she's only having to take one stride between the poles. I don't want her doing 2 strides between the poles. I definitely want it to be an exercise where she's having to pick up feet between each pole, and there's only one step. So each foot is only doing one step in the gaps. If she starts to have to do more than that, we're not really achieving what we want to achieve. What we want is to see the dog having a beautiful stride. It's thinking about where all its feet are, nothing is being knocked down. Good girl. Like that. That was because I set her up too close. But yeah, we want a nice little stride pattern. Now, as you can see, what it's teaching her is she's having to really think about her feet. So this is making her think about all her feet independently. For Swift, this is quite easy because she's quite good at that. But for other dogs, that could be a bit of a challenge because if they're not really sure about where the individual paw is, they can start to falter. Funnily enough, dogs are a bit like they can't always work out, especially their back feet, they can't always work out where their feet are. Good girl. And then they have troubles, and that's when they're not picking their feet up. So we're looking for the dog to pick all their feet up successfully, especially the back feet. One stride between each Cavaletti set. If we were having a lot of incidents of her knocking them, I might say to myself, they're too close. We've got to be aware of that. I know this is a good stride for her, but if I felt that she was knocking them because she just simply couldn't get her feet over them, then I would obviously adjust them. And we obviously don't want them too close, too far apart, that she's then adding that extra stride in, which is not helping us. What we want to see is a dog that can pick up all its feet independently and trot across nicely. So you can see Swift can do this beautifully, no issue. She's doing it quite independently. Good girl. I've done several repetitions. I don't want to do too many because it's not necessary. Ah, now I went too fast. And do you see what she did? She jumped. So that's something to bear in mind. Good. I got a bit quick and she went, oh, I'll just jump them. Now bear in mind that when you've got an agility dog, what do you do with poles? You jump them. So it can be very tempting for a dog, especially at this where there isn't a lot of, this could actually be a spread for a large dog, a long jump, because you look at it, come back a minute, May. It's not that wide. Okay. There you see, she jumped him. Let's try that one more time, but this, good girl. Okay. You don't want to do too many, because obviously it is tiring for the dog. They do have to think about it. And if they are constantly knocking poles, first of all, you need to assess where they're knocking poles. Are they doing it on their back feet, so they're not picking their back feet up? Or is it something about their front feet? Again, is it because the distance is too tight? There are so many reasons why dogs don't successfully do Cavalettis. It could be they're trying to go too fast. It could be they're too fixated on you and the toys or whatever your reward is, so they're not concentrating on what they're supposed to be doing, and they're not looking at where the poles are. It can be other factors, even that there's some issue with your dog that they actually physically cannot complete the Cavalettis. So I'm going to show you Sparrow in a minute. She has had luxating patella in the past. We worked hard to get past that, but she's not as confident with her rear legs, and she hasn't got, because she had a dodge, one of her knees was actually did pop. when she walks, she's actually slightly less confident lifting one back leg than the other. So that tends to be when we clip her. She also goes too fast, and she also concentrates on me instead of what she's doing. So we've got lots of factors there. So it's one of these things that you've got to unravel the puzzle if they're not doing it right and say, well, why is my dog not doing this right? What is going wrong? And it's not something to get cross or frustrated about. It's part of a learning tool, because it's going to tell you information about your dog. It could be that your dog needs more work on their rear end awareness. It's just one of the things. So, you know, don't get cross about it. Don't get frustrated. Work with your dog and treat this as a tool to help you see your dog in a different light and as a whole package. Okay, I'm going to get Sparrow out and we can see how she will do these. Okay, so with Sparrow, I'm going to move these out a little bit. Not much, but I just want to adjust them a little bit because she's longer in the body than Swift. So I want to make sure help her out with these. Okay, good go. Okay, Sparrow. Now, we saw exactly what happened there. Go search. First off, Sparrow was not paying attention to where she was going. She was looking at me with a treat. Secondly, she wasn't using her back end independently. She tried to use them as a hop. That is one of her things. She doesn't like to use her back legs independently because of that luxating patella, which is all sorted, it's all fixed, but she's just got that memory of it. And good girl. So we'll try that again. Wait. Good girl. So it's actually better with her if I stand ahead and ask her to come to me. That was good. Wait. Sparrow. There you are. She still had a little bit of clicking, but it didn't actually... Oh, we did lose a pole. Sorry, I tell a lie. We did lose a pole. But you can see she was better because she was concentrating on what she did. Good girl. We've done a lot of work on this, so you can see she's improved immensely from what she was. Good girl. There's a bit there. Good girl, Swift. Good girl. Okay. So she is learning. She still tries to go too fast. If she was doing that a lot, good girl. That was fantastic. That was lovely. She chose that all herself, and that was a perfect trot. Good girl. Now, if she was a chronic dog for going too fast, if she just constantly blasted through that, I would have her, she's on a harness, I would have her on a lead, and I would have a double-ended lead, so I had control. I'd attach it to here and to the front of the harness, and I would hold on to that lead so she couldn't rush through. Sparrow always does things at lightning speed. Whatever you ask her to do, she wants to do things at lightning speed. Okay, let's do one more with you. Wait. Okay. You ran that one, but that was very nice because actually you managed to achieve it without knocking anything. Okay. Good girl. Good girl. She likes going that way better. Good girl. You could actually treat this as a shaping exercise where you stood in the middle and just encouraged the dog to shape, to go back and forth without you having to guide them, which is something we might move up to. So that, in essence, is your Cavalettis. How often would I do these? Probably no more than once a week. And I wouldn't do them for very long. As much as anything, they're an assessment for me to check my dog is moving correctly and to see if I'm improving their movement or if there is an issue that I might need fixing. And again, it's to encourage body awareness, self-control. I hope you've enjoyed this Everyday Canines video. And if you have, you might like to check us out on YouTube and you can subscribe to our channel. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. And I hope to see you all again very, very soon.